Act 1. As the Discovery enters orbit around Boreth, Burnham goes to Tyler in his quarters, demanding to know what he's not telling her. Tyler admits, there's a whole lot here, you know. Tyler admits that Boreth is the home of his son, the home to the son of Voke and Laurel. You notice he doesn't really say, like, my son, but, you know.
He does, though.
Oh, he does later. He doesn't there. It was just kind of an awkward thing. He had wanted to raise the child, but instead it would have put him and Laurel in jeopardy, so the boy was taken to Boreth to be raised as a son of none, just like him. He apologizes, saying that he couldn't tell anybody, and giving him a big old smoochy hug. Burnham expresses that she wished he had told her so she could have helped carry the burden. At that moment, a secure communication comes in. Section 31 ship has missed a check-in. When Tyler says it could be nothing, Burnham believes when it comes to Leland, no inconsistency was too small. Tyler knows she wants to go after him for what had happened to her mother, and admits that he did not think it would be possible to stop her. At that moment, Saru calls over the intercom, telling Tyler that Chancellor Laurel has... God, there's a lot of L's in it. It gets real tongue-trippy. Chancellor Laurel has arrived aboard a D-7 battle cruiser. Before he leaves, he hands Burnham his Section 31 pad and tells her to be careful. Coming aboard the Discovery, Laurel tells Pike and Tyler that the monastery on Boreth was the most sacred site in the Klingon Empire, and contact with outsiders had been non-existent since our world was young. Pike emphasizes that control was a threat to them all and asks what could be of value there. The Red Angel suit was modified. The Red Angel suit was powered by a modified crystal, and Pike speculates that a crystal could allow them to send the sphere data into the future after all.
Now, how come the Klingons have not made more use of this technology? Is it because there's some kind of religious value to it that it's kind of off limits, or?
So I did notice as we've been doing this episode, and I don't remember which one it was from, they say about 20 or 25 years ago, the Klingons began to experiment with time travel technology.
Yeah.
And that's what got the Red Angel suit thing started. So they have done some experiment with it. But I believe as we go, we'll find out there's more of this planet and the time crystals that kind of prohibit their use in a way. Or help modify it at least, you know. Laurel considers the manipulation of time to be a weapon unlike any other, which is why the Empire no longer exploits the crystals. Well, there we go. I guess we could have hung on for another sentence or two there. Pike believes that their mutual survival depends on time manipulation to defeat control, and perhaps finding the last three signals would allow them to do that. Tyler volunteers to beam down to Boreth, but Laurel immediately objects, saying they would not have this conversation in Pike's presence. When Pike promises full discretion, seeing his time was of the essence, Laurel admits that Tyler's presence on Boreth would endanger the life of their son. Tyler emphasizes he would not put the Empire at risk, but he had the right to see their son. Tyler shouts in Klingonese that he was not hers to command.
Is that the official name of the language, Klingonese?
I believe when you say it out loud in English, it is.
What is it in Klingon?
It's like Klingon Hall or something. I
used to pronounce it in perfect Klingon.
Yeah, I can barely pronounce English. We're not going for Klingon, man. I did have several copies throughout my life of the Klingon dictionary after they were released. Back when I had my video game store in the 90s, I had a bunch of Star Trek collectibles in there.
Yeah, video game store?
Yeah.
How did I not know this about you?
I don't know. It hasn't come up yet.
I feel like all the talking about nerd stuff that we do, you could have said something, bud.
I'm sure I must have. I mean, I opened a used video game store when I was 19. I'm sure it's come up. It had to have by now, you know. But I had a bunch of Star Trek memorabilia in there, scripts and different things. And back then, what you got were handmade props because, they hadn't licensed them yet. But, stuff would move pretty well. And those Klingon dictionaries, I think, had only been published twice. Once was with the Search for Spock. And then once halfway through Next Gen, when it had been greatly expanded upon, and that was the one that everybody was looking for.
Yeah.
So I do remember having one and trying to read through it some and just going, yeah, I never did well at French either. So I think we'll just put Klingon and French in the same drawer.
I wonder if they still have college courses that you could take Klingon through. They must, right?
They have to. Somebody somewhere. I mean, it may not be as many as it was like during Next Generation's heyday, but somebody's still giving college credits for it,
I don't know. I'm sure with the resurgence of Star Trek recently and all the shows that are on, they probably got an uptick in numbers again.
Oh, more than likely. I'm sure that there's certificate programs all over online to make you a Klingon linguist or whatever,
Mm-mm-mm.
Oh, what I was going to say, though, is there was a series of books written back in the 70s or 80s where the official name of the Klingon language wasn't Klingonese, but Klingon-ase, A-S-E at the end. Which
I don't like that either.
Every time I read that, it made me think of mayonnaise. And I was like, no, now I want a sandwich and I don't want to read this book anymore. But I digress. L'Rell replies in the same tongue that the rule was no contact for their son's safety. But Tyler retorts that the signals changed the rules. L'Rell dismisses this as an excuse that their son could not afford. Before it goes any further, Pike speaks up in English and says that he will go, agreeing with L'Rell that it was not safe for either of them. L'Rell points out that it would not be safe for him either, as the monks who guarded the crystals were beyond even her command as Chancellor. Pike notes this, but still asks her to establish communication. She says she can arrange an audience, but warns that no Klingon, let alone a human, has ever taken a crystal from Boreth without a great sacrifice. Pike points out that the alternative is even worse. And I think
we'll soon find out.
I was going to say, and I think if any of us had really been thinking about it, we might have been able to figure out what was coming. But I got to say, as we get into this, I was kind of taken off guard by what happens in this episode.
Yeah, we can talk about that as we move further.
Yeah, as we get it in there, yeah.